Thank you everyone for attending the Southwest 155th Avenue Transportation Traffic Calming Meeting, our neighborhood meeting rather. And this is for Southwest 155th Avenue between Southwest Cormorant Drive and Southwest Falcon Drive. My name is Stacy Rivet. I work for the City of Beaverton in Public Works and Engineering. And we have two folks with us this evening who will be presenting. We have Tony Chow, who's a transportation project engineer, and then Jabra Kasho, who's our transportation traffic engineer for the City of Beaverton. So thank you everyone for being here this evening. And again, we will have you put any questions in the Q&A feature. You can use the chat to kind of put in some comments or certain things, but if you'd like to answer or to ask a question, go ahead and use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And or you can also ask at the end of the presentation to speak, and I will make sure to unmute you so that you can ask a question. So this should be really fun and exciting. So let's have a good time with this meeting. And thank you again for being here. Tony, go ahead and share your screen.
So welcome, folks. So here's the PowerPoint for Southwest 155th Avenue Neighborhood Traffic Calming Meeting number 2. So along the way, Mr. Kasho and I will give you like location by location, what traffic calming options available, and then also show you like how the location looks and that we think will be really ideal for traffic calming. So after the presentation, we'll go location by location out of the options that we present, and you guys can choose which option you guys prefer at this point for traffic calming. So at this moment, I'll get started. So Southwest 155th between Southwest Commonwealth Drive and Falcon Drive, we had a speeding concern, and it was the 85% percentile speed was around 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit. And this is the project area for the Southwest 155th Avenue project. As you can see, it's from Commonwealth to Falcon, and every neighbor within 200 feet of the side streets, and everyone who has a property touching the main street will have a voice in this project. So this is the locations that we picked up for traffic calming, and I'll show you in more detail at this moment. So if you go location by location, the first location we pick out was starting from 160th Avenue, the always stop control here at 160th Avenue and 155th Avenue. If you go 300 feet, the first location we picked out is 15875 Southwest Commonwealth Drive or 10785 Southwest Oriole Circle. And then on the map, you see a lot of like random icons. So this is a storm drain. This is a manhole, fire hydrant, and then this is a power pole or a light pole. And then as you go further down Southwest 155th Avenue, the second location is we picked out is right near the pump house on the curve at 10835 Southwest 155th Avenue. And then if you go further down, it's at 10960 Morning Dove Place or 10905 Southwest Falcon Court. There'll be one more set of speed traffic calming location. And then you'll be roughly 350 feet from the roundabout at Teal and 155th Avenue. So at this moment, I'll jump into the PowerPoint. So here's the first location we picked out. This is looking north towards Nancy Wild School and 160th Avenue. As you can see, there's bike lane, the center lane, and then the landscape and the landscape strip, the sidewalks, and relevant utilities like this utility. And this is looking south towards Oriole Circle. And also, this is only two-way stop control at Oriole Circle. So here's the roadway characteristics. 36 feet for the width of the road, 5.2% grade to the south, sidewalks and bike lane on both sides, landscape strip on both sides, and then there's always stop control like I mentioned at 155th Avenue and 160th Avenue. And it's near manholes, storm drains, street lights, fire hydrant, power poles, trees, and traffic medians on the side street that we'll take into account when we do the design. And here's a speed study result at that location. And an 85th percentile speed is 30.11 mph, which is mile per hour. The ADT is really high, 4745, 4,745 vehicles. And there's a little bit more vehicles going north compared to going south on an average day. So here's traffic calming techniques that will work at this location. Striping, speed humps, speed cushions, speed display signs. So as a reminder, this is what striping looks like. Just you can put striping like a center line or something that makes it more clear that people should slow down. Rumble strips, or you can even put like some kind of dash pavement marking to make it like differentiated pavement to show people that they should slow down in this zone. Speed humps is the other option that you can consider. And then speed cushions, this is the one where you have gaps between in the speed hump itself, so emergency vehicles can go past it with no issues. And there's gaps between the humps for something like a larger vehicle, like a fire truck, to go through. There's no delay to emergency response. And here's the last one, which is a speed display sign. As you can see, there's a solar panel on top of it, a speed limit sign, and the display sign itself, which will tell you the speed limit the speed you're going at. And if you go over the speed limit, the sign will flash to tell you to slow down. So here's a second location, 155th Avenue, south of Commonwealth Drive, near the pump house. This is looking north, and this is looking south, and this is where the pump house is. And here's the roadway characteristics. 32 feet wide on the road, 1.5% grade to the north, down to the north. There's sidewalks, bike lanes, and landscape strip on both sides. And there's manholes, street light, power poles, trees, and pump house that we consider when we do any design of traffic calming. And here's a speed study result at that location. The 85th percentile speed is really high at this location. It's 35.76 miles per hour, whereas the speed limit is 25. So this is a really ideal location for traffic calming. An ADT is 5,338 vehicles. And once again, there's more vehicles going north on an average day compared to going south. And same as last location, striping, speed humps, speed cushions, and speed display signs are ideal candidates for traffic calming at this location. So once again, here's the pictures: striping, speed humps, speed cushions, and speed display sign. And the last location we have picked out is 155th Avenue, north of Falcon Drive, about 300 feet south of the pump house. And this is looking north, and this is looking south. And this location is Falcon Drive. The roadway width is 34 feet, 2.3% grade to the north, down to the north. Sidewalks, bike lane, and landscape strips on both sides. And there's manholes, street lights, storm drains, a vault on the east side, power pole, fire hydrant, and traffic medians on the side street that we consider. And same as last location, we really recommend striping, speed humps, speed cushions, and speed display signs. And then once again, here's the pictures: striping, speed humps, speed cushions, and speed display sign. So this concludes the PowerPoint portion of our meeting. And then once again, I'll go over the map one more time, location by location, just briefly. The one north of Commonwealth Drive and Oriole Circle. And these are the two houses: 15875 Commonwealth Drive and 10785 Oriole Circle. And then the second location is at the pump house, 10835 155th Avenue. The third location is 10905 Southwest Falcon Court, or 10960 Morning Dove Place. So at this point, and then you'll get to the traffic circle, which is 350 feet away. And this concludes the the PowerPoint and the map presentation part of the meeting. Mr. Kasha, do you have anything to add? Mr. Kasha, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. We have to look at 155th, you know, it's a street with bike lanes and a center line. So at the last meeting, we showed many options for traffic calming devices. We talked about the pros and cons for each device, or advantages and disadvantages. But if you look at the street, we're kind of limited to what we could have on the street. I mean, yeah, we talked about curb extensions, we talked about islands. The problem with those is you try to put them in, let's say we're gonna have curb extension on the street, then you'll end up wiping the bike lane. And this is classified as a collector street, so bike lanes are required to be in. The same thing with the medians. If you put a median in, basically you need at least 14 feet lane next to the median to allow a bicycle and a car go at the same time. At the same time, you'll be cutting off the bike lane, and that's not a good thing. So we're limited to what we could use on the street. We could use speed cushions, we could use speed display signs. And at the last meeting, you know, I mentioned that speed cushions probably is the best device that you could use to reduce speeds and cut through traffic. Also, speed cushions will not impede emergency response vehicles. And I always keep mentioning this because it is important. Fire department, every second is important for them to be able to reach their whatever is happening. I mean, they have to get there, and every second will help saving a life. So that's why I encourage you, if you choose speed humps, go with the speed cushions because of the emergency response time. Also, speed cushions and speed humps, they have the same effect. They both work. Although you see drivers tend to go in the gutter, keep two wheels in the gutter and two wheels on the speed hump. By the time you do this, you try to center the car, they already slowed down. So they really work. And recently we just did a comparison between the speed humps and the speed cushions. And the comparison was actually to give a recommendation to the Institute of Transportation Engineers, how effective are they? We have so many of them, so we were able to give this data. And it showed the speed cushions are identical to speed humps. It reduces the speed almost by 6 to 8 miles per hour. So if we use those, it's a good thing. The other thing, sometimes people don't like speed cushions or speed humps. You could use the speed display signs. They're not as effective as the speed cushions or speed humps, but they will tend to reduce speeds. So like I said, I encourage you to, if you're going to consider speed humps, to consider using speed cushions on the street. Another thing, you know, at the intersections, we looked at maybe try to have a traffic circle. But you look at it, try to fit a traffic circle where you'll allow also large vehicles, garbage trucks, delivery trucks, emergency, you know, fire trucks. It's really hard to fit something in to allow them to go through without expanding the right of way. And it gets very expensive very quick. And unless it's designed really well, it will not function as good. So we're kind of limited to what options we have. But as we go through the process and we look at each location, I think Stacy mentioned that you cannot speak, but if somebody want to speak, we will allow it. So we'll have some discussion between us if we're gonna talk about certain device or people like it or don't like it. This is our first meeting, virtual meeting, working on coming up with the plan. And we'd like to interact with the people attending the meeting, and we'd like to hear your opinion because the plan has to come from you. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, the plan has to receive 67% approval rate from all the residents along the street, and we go to 150 feet on the side streets. So that's why, if you don't like anything proposed, please bring it up and we'll try to deal with it at this time. Or we could have two options too. We could have two different plans. But at the end, we need to agree on a plan that everybody is kind of comfortable with. I know we cannot, sometimes it's really hard to please everyone, but we'll do our best to get you there. And I'll be quiet now and let Tony go through the process.
So at this moment, we'll open up the Q&A and also polling. So in each location, please provide your feedback at this time. So I think we'll go for the first location, which is, once again, the first location we'll choose is 15875 Southwest Commonwealth Drive and near Southwest Oriole Circle, 10785. So at this point, can you please put in your chat box, which is your preference, like speed cushions, striping, or speed display signs, or speed humps. So please provide input, like if you can, if you like really want like options, and put it in the chat box so we can separate from the Q&A. So we'll give it one more minute for people to provide their input. So it looks like the numbers stopped increasing. So we'll take a look at the chat box at this moment. So as you can see, on the first one, speed hump cushions, speed cushion, speed humps, cushions, speed humps, speed cushions, and speed cushions. So it looks like the majority of our panelists wants speed cushion at this location. And then I don't think, let me double check that, make sure I don't miss anybody. So yeah, it looks like a majority wants speed cushions.
We also have one person with their hand up. Diana, can you speak?
I can, sorry, my
That's
internet
okay.
was like crashing on me, so it's coming in and out. But I had a question that I put in the Q&A, but I thought I would just kind of ask it to the group so we could make this a little bit more interactive too and kind of encourage some conversation. But I was interested, Tony and Jabra, on how the locations are determined, and maybe you guys talked about that at the first meeting, but I wasn't here for that, and I got lucky and got to see you guys out there doing some work last week or the week before, so that was fun. But I had a question on that, and then also, does it have to be one or the other, or can you do like cushions and signs? Is it an option to do that? I mean, obviously some of them wouldn't be doubled up, but is there the option to do more than just one?
Yeah. Okay, I'll go back, explain why we choose these locations. Typically, traffic calming devices, they work best if they're spaced between 300 and 350 feet. We could push it up to 400, but we found 300, 350 in that range, it works the best. So what we do is we divided the street for 300 foot sections. And this is the first section coming from Cormorant Drive. The reason we did not consider anything on Cormorant Drive is Cormorant Drive is an always stop. So drivers basically are gonna stop. So they're starting to move from stopping. So they're already at 0 speed at the time. So by the time, 300 feet, they got up to speed, then there will be a device there, like a speed cushion maybe, that will, if they're, it will keep the speed slow past that point. So that's how we divided the street into sections based on that 300 to 350 feet sections.
Yes, Mr. Roadway, that's correct. Cameron is not the always stop. The always stop is 160th Avenue and 155th Avenue. That's correct. And then let's see. Oh, raised crosswalk. Yes, a speed hump can also be function as a raised crosswalk. So we could consider that as in the design of the speed hump. Terrible for bicyclists. The sudden jolt. The speed hump and speed cushion. They will not cover the bike lane, so there will not be any impact to the bike lane. But as far as the disruptive for drivers and then potential impacted cars, that could be potential impacts.
AI,
yes.
The speed cushion or speed hump will cover the bike lane. The only piece that it doesn't cover is the gutter next to the curb. So it's 18 inches from the face of the curb. The reason it has to extend through the bike lane is if you leave it open, then drivers try to skirt out of it and they start moving towards the curb. And we don't want this to happen. Having a speed cushion or a speed hump in a bike lane, it doesn't affect cyclists at all. I mean, it's easy to go over it because the wheel of the bicycle, it's large enough, and with the profile of the speed cushion, it will not have an impact. We have them in many places where we have shoulders and bike lanes with speed humps.
Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go through the Q&A section of this. So we're going to go through each and every question, and then Tony and or Jabra will answer the questions. Now I see that there's lots of comments in the chat version. So I think what we're going to do again is we're going to go through some of these questions in the Q&A. If you have a specific question, go ahead and type that in the Q&A section, or if you'd like to raise your hand, then I can allow you to speak. That way we don't miss anything.
So wait a moment, Stacy. This comment about the 325 feet of the location of the speed hump or speed cushion, that's definitely something that we can consider. And then let's see. I don't want to miss anything related to speed cushions. 1 second, Stacy. Okay. Okay, a stop sign is already at Cameron. So I believe you're asking about always stop control, which is separate from traffic calming. And then once again, the crosswalk, we can if you do a speed hump, it could function as a crosswalk, like we mentioned the last meeting. All right. So at this moment, we'll open up the Q&A. Since it looks like the majority wants traffic speed cushions or speed humps along 155th Avenue at the location we picked out. So at this moment, we'll turn over to Stacy for Q&A and the chat and address anything else in the chat box that we may have missed.
Okay, so first question. Oh, go ahead, Jabra.
I think there was a question about why does it have a center line and the other side does not. The functional classification of 155th changes near 160th. To the north of 160th, it's classified as a neighborhood route. To the south, it's classified as a collector street. That's why you don't see any homes facing the street or driveways facing the street. So that's why also it has bike lanes, because our collector street standards, it has to have a bike lanes on both sides. And also there is a question about that center line, sometimes it will increase speeds on the street. I can't, Tony, do you know what's the average daily traffic on 155th?
Yes, I do. 1 second. I'll go back to the slide with the two speed study location. So here's the first location. The second location is 5,338 vehicles. And in this, that's the one south of Cameron Drive. And the speed is almost 36 miles per hour. Whereas at the other location is 30.11 mile per hour. And the ADT is about 4,700 vehicles.
Yeah. So we have some national standards that we need to follow on center lines. typically, if the street has 6,000 vehicles per day, we must have a center line on the street. If it's less than 6,000 vehicles per day, that center line is not needed. If the neighborhood choose to take that center line out, we could do this. But also we have to look if there are any sharp curves where the center line is important to be there, especially at night when drivers, if they go a little fast, sometimes they start going over the center line and encroaching onto the other lane. So center line will help with that. Other things we could do, we could take the striping out and just leave some reflectors in the middle of the street, which is, it helps also to take that feel of a high-speed roadway. We could do this. So if you want to consider these things as part of the plan, we can do that.
So at this moment, I'll stop sharing my screen, and then Stacy will open up for Q&A and address anything else that in the chat box that we may have missed. So I'll pause. I'll stop sharing at this moment.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and start with the first question. So this one is from Steve. I assume traffic count numbers on 155th South of 160th are substantially higher than north of 160th. Is that the reason there are no center lines or bicycle lane lines on 155th north of 160th? Jabra?
So,
I think I just answered this question, explaining the center line option.
Okay, perfect. Does the city-owned address at 10835 Southwest 155th count as a voting property?
it does, but then if it comes down to that last number, if it needs, we really need that number to get to the 67% threshold for the project to be approved, that number will be waived at that moment because the city owned, and we're not supposed to have an input on this. But we don't anticipate that number being the difference between the project going through and not going through.
Okay, great. Some studies have shown that removal of center lines on roadways reduces traffic speed. Is that an option on 155th between the traffic circle on Teal and 160th for consistency along 155th?
Yes, I explained this. It's an option since
Okay.
the average daily traffic on it is less than 6,000 vehicles per day. Yeah, but we have to be careful about the curves in the street. So we have to treat those curves with some type of center line. If it's not a painted center line, we could put some reflectors. Those we call them buttons that reflects at night. It's got reflectors on it. So we could have a few of those around the curves. It's possible.
Okay, and then another question I think we've already answered, but just in case, can the speed hump or cushion be closer to Falcon Court or Falcon Drive? For example, 325 feet from Teal instead of 350. I feel like the closer to the intersection would be better to help lower speeds from both directions.
Yes, the location can be adjusted 25 to 100 feet, depending on the resident's preference, to make it like the most effective. We can make it like both most effective and also most likely to be approved by the residents on 155th Avenue. So we definitely can be adjusted, the locations.
Okay, and then also something about choosing a speed cushion near the pump house as opposed to the speed hump. I'm afraid that cars may go toward the center to avoid the cushion. And since it is a curve, won't that make it more dangerous?
The radius of the curve is large enough. We'll check on the radius. We're allowed to put speed cushions or speed humps in a radius. Still, if somebody chooses to have the wheel in the center line, the other two wheels will be on the speed cushion. So they're going to slow down regardless what they try to do.
Okay.
Oh, so the radius is around 610 feet if you measure from coming around to Falcon, if you draw a straight line connecting the curve.
Yeah, we will not install any speed humps or speed cushions for curve radiuses that less than 300 feet. So it is allowed to put it. It's almost double that. So we're in good shape.
Okay. Could we put a stop sign at Cormorant?
Once again, a stop sign is I believe you're asking for always stop control at Cormorant Drive and 155th Avenue. That's separate from traffic calming. So if you would like us to do so, we can do a always stop control warrant to see if that location warrants that always stop control. But it is separate from traffic calming.
I'm gonna disagree a little bit. We could include it as part of the plan, but to have an always stop, it has to meet always stop warrants. What we're talking about is the traffic volume on all legs of the intersection must be close to be equal. The reason why, if you have a stop, let's say one street, 155th has a high volume of traffic, Cormorant does not. So what will happen is you put the always stop in, and drivers, they'll be driving on 155th. And with time, they say, okay, there's no one on Cormorant Drive, why should I stop? And then they start disobeying the stop control. Actually, will create a problem because people see no need to stop. So what could happen is one day you'll have a driver say, yeah, no one is on Cormorant or on the side street, and they'll drive through, and here's come a driver that's in the intersection. So we make it worse if it truly the traffic volume is not there to warrant an always stop. And also the traffic commission will, when they review the plan, they will consider all these things. So yeah, it could be part of the plan, but it has to meet the always stop warrants to have always stop at that intersection. And if you have it in, then also you have to look at the spacing, what you could have between. Then also if you stop the driver at every intersection as they go through 155th, it becomes frustrating. And studies have shown that sometimes drivers tend to drive at higher speeds from the frustration. They'll start speeding and then slowing down, speeding and slowing down. That's why we also use the 350 feet or 350 spacing between traffic calming devices.
Okay, can we have a crosswalk across 155th at Cormorant and Oriel Circle, similar to that at Falcon?
Yeah, city policy, we will not mark crosswalks unless it's controlled by a signal or a stop sign. Because studies have shown that marked crosswalk without any additional improvements, such as median islands or a flashing beacon, you increase the risk of a pedestrian getting hit if you mark it without those improvements.
Thank you, Jabra. Next question. Speed bumps are on 155th through Williamsburg neighborhood. Just continue them. Well, I guess it's more of a comment. Okay.
As I mentioned, at the time when Williamsburg was constructed, they were actually experimenting with speed humps at the time. That's from over 25 years ago. But speed cushions, it was invented so it will allow the emergency vehicles to go through quicker. And we're trying to make it better for them. Even on existing traffic calming streets with traffic calming devices, when we're doing overlays, we're trying to switch from speed humps to speed cushions. Even some of the residents, like South Beaverton on Haystack, they asked us to take the speed humps and use speed cushions. And we did this study before and after, and actually the speed cushions, they're 14 feet wide. They did better than the 22-foot wide speed hump. So I encourage you to consider speed cushions. We'll make the TVFNR happy, and like I said, every second is important when they respond to an emergency.
And Jabra, can you explain the process, or Tony or Jabra, can you explain the process for getting a crosswalk with a flashing beacon?
The process is to mark a crosswalk and spend the money on a flashing beacon. You need at least, count 20 pedestrians crossing per hour. So you have to have that number of pedestrian crossing all the time that it will warrant to have a beacon on the street. Another option, let's focus now on the speeding and the cut through traffic. And if later on you are interested in having a marked crosswalk there with a beacon, we could take it through traffic commission process. Yeah.
I do think that you already talked about this one, but I just want to make sure, is there a reason creating four-way stops at Falcon and Oriole are not an option? I think you talked about that.
Yeah, I don't think Oriole and Cormorant has the traffic volume that is equal to 155th. So you'll warrant an always stop. We could evaluate the intersection. We'll do a warrant analysis, and the next meeting will tell you if it meets warrants or not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and someone just made a comment, speed bump between Circle and Falcon would reduce speed. Just a comment. Another question is, how is it so that the crosswalks at Falcon are marked?
The crosswalks at Falcon are marked. Aren't they concrete? I'm not sure that they have white markings on it. Do they, Tony?
Let me double check. I'll share my screen and I'll pull up the Google map for a second. Double check the location. You say Falcon and 155th Avenue, Stacy?
They're saying that they do have the white striping and just saying crosswalks at Falcon. I'm not sure. What are the cross streets?
Falcon
if you could put it.
Yes, there is a crosswalk markings. Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's a pavement, differentiated pavement here, and then same thing, crosswalk marking on the main street. And then let's double check Oriole while we add it.
I'm not sure how these crosswalks were installed at the time.
So this one is at Commonwealth and Oriole. It does not have the pavement. It does not have the crosswalk pavement marking. And if you go to the third location near the school, that one also has the crosswalk markings.
But that one is always stopped.
Yes, it's always stopped. That's correct. All right, I'll stop sharing. Okay.
Okay. Looks like there were just some comments on here about the four-way stop. A lot of comments about just thanks for a great process. Really appreciate the expertise. And, it looks like that we're getting kind of closer. It sounds like we're getting closer to the things that the neighborhood wanted. I do want to kind of go over, there was one particular gentleman that kind of listed a bunch of stuff at the very beginning as far as, after the meeting with representatives for over half of the voting group, Oriole Circle and Falcon Court, the preference would be a raised crosswalk across 155th on the northwest side of Falcon, a raised crosswalk across 155th on either side of Oriole or Cormorant, a speed hump, cushions would be an acceptable alternative, midway between the above crosswalks, very much in alignment with the city's proposal. Understanding that hydraulics at Oriole and Cormorant may not support them, a speed hump or a set of cushions on either side of the intersection would be an acceptable alternative.
I want to mention that if you have speed humps or speed cushions, you treat the street with some devices. Doing this will reduce the speeds, and it will become much safer to cross at the intersection, regardless it has a marked crosswalk or not, because vehicles will be going at maybe 25 miles per hour, 28 miles per hour. So it becomes safer. So keep this in mind before we start adding all these things all at once.
Are there any other questions that anybody has? They can either raise their hand if they'd like to speak or type in the Q&A. Could you put a speed bump on 155th between the Circle and Falcon to slow the drivers who don't stop at the Circle stop sign?
So
there are many.
So we measure the distance between Falcon and 155th Avenue, and between the third set of location that we picked out, there's not enough spacing to put a fourth device. Because of the proximity to the roundabout, there's not enough separation. Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure if, yeah, you slow people down before they get to the stop sign, but still, are they gonna stop or not? Regardless what the speed is. I mean, we looked at the spacing and we found that the best location for a speed cushion was near Falcon, near the intersection. And Tony, do you recall the distance between that last location and the roundabout? It was 200 some feet.
It's 350 feet from the last set. So there's not enough separation between that and then the roundabout to put one more in. There's probably not enough.
I mean, what we could do, we could juggle a little bit between the spacing. If you want to have a speed cushion or speed hump between Falcon and the roundabout, then we have to move things a little bit to the north. We start shifting a little bit. I mean, we could reduce the spacing, maybe 275 or so. Still, it will work. But we'll take a look at this. And we could have also two different options. We could have one with the normal spacing as we go through it, as we just slice the street. And we could have one with additional speed humps or speed cushions or whatever traffic calming device we need. And we try to squeeze them in to see how the spacing will work. Now we're guessing, can we have one here? Can we have one there? But we'll measure and install these things, and we'll bring it back to you at the next meeting to take a look at, and we'll pick a plan that the neighborhood will be happy with. I mean, we'll try to squeeze as much as we can, but we don't want to frustrate the driver. The minute you start frustrating drivers, it becomes unsafe. Regardless, you have speed humps, speed cushions, or whatever you have, stop signs. Because you frustrate the driver, they start ignoring all the rules and they start speeding in between. So that's why the spacing is important. But if we can fit something in, we'll try to squeeze the most number we can, yes.
We've got something in the chat here. What can we do to accelerate the process to get the speed cushions to the neighbors for a vote to hopefully get this in ASAP? I think one speed cushion near Oriel, one near Falcon, and one in between sounds great, rather than have another meeting.
So as we mentioned,
go ahead.
So as we mentioned, we'll have one more neighborhood meeting. So the next neighborhood meeting will present the options that we just discussed. And then after the neighborhood meeting, if we come to a consensus, then we'll move forward to open house. If we do not come to consensus, then there'll be a possibility there'll be more meetings.
But the open house is optional. We have 15 attendees. If you feel you can get the plan through without an open house, we can do it. That's your choice, and we'll have a count of hands, and we'll go with that too. If you want to expedite it, a month or so. Yeah, we can do that. That option is still on the table, yes.
Okay, and then we do have one comment. Terrific meeting, very helpful answers from Jabber and Tony. Thank you. So thank you so much for saying that. We appreciate it. So when this process is voted on and ratified, how long before the change would take effect?
So let's assume there's one neighborhood meeting and then assume the open house is waived. So the soonest you guys will receive ballot will be, the next meeting will be June. So then, if assuming everything goes well in that meeting and you guys come to some consensus, then the soonest we could, the whole process could get, the whole process we can get to the mailing stage would be in late June and early July. Jabbar, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. The thing is, after we do the poll of the plan, it has to be scheduled before the Traffic Commission for approval. And then it goes to City Council for final approval. So we need some time between them, because Traffic Commission, we have to advertise in the newspaper before the hearing, at least 20 days. Regardless, you know, let's say we got it approved July or August. It depends on the weather. It seems this year it's going to be dry, and I don't know how long it will extend. I mean, we still could do work in September if we get dry weather to install the speed humps, and our city operations will do it for us. So potentially we could do it by September.
Yeah. So
if everything goes well and smooth. If it does not, then it will be the next spring.
So to recap, mailing, the fastest we could do possibly the mailing of the ballot, 67% support, which we'll need to get the Traffic Commission, will be in June or early July. Then, as Jabbar mentioned, then July, August, possibly for Traffic Commission approval. And then September, probably for the first sign of construction. Did I miss anything, Mr. Crenshaw?
Yeah, I want to mention something. Let's say next meeting we'll pick up a plan, and then we need some time to prepare the cards. And if we push it, you know, we probably need 2 weeks to get everything ready and in line to be mailed. Then we give 3 weeks for people to return their cards. This is a must, the 3 weeks. We cannot chop it down. So we were talking 5 weeks. So this is now we are May. So it will be July or August before we go to the Traffic Commission. So yeah, like I said, potentially it could happen in end of September. If not, it will be the next spring, depending on the weather.
Okay. A hump between the roundabout and Falcon is to slow down people coming from the roundabout and approaching Falcon. It's hard for Falcon folks to exit their street.
So once again, yeah, the placement and the location, we can look at between Falcon and the roundabout. We can take a look at putting one more device there. We will do so. Okay.
And when is the next meeting scheduled?
So if you look at the calendar, the first meeting was on a Thursday. Because of unusual circumstances, we changed to Wednesday this month. But the next meeting, we're targeting does June 3rd work for everybody, Mr. Kasha? Does that work for you, June 3rd?
The first Thursday of the month, we have Traffic Commission meetings. So
it looks like we can target June 10th then.
Yeah.
Okay. So does June 10th work for you, Stacy?
Yes, I think so.
All right, and then, so it looks like we'll tentatively schedule for June 10th. And if you have any objections to June 10th, please provide your input in the chat box at this time. So it'll be the same time, 6 p.m., June 10th, Thursday. And once again, it'll be virtual.
Right, and actually, as far as this meeting is considered, there's a meeting that we were scheduled for next Thursday, and we moved it because we have the city manager, the public meetings for the city manager. So there are some other things sometimes that can kind of interfere with the scheduling. So tentatively, we could say June 10th, but we won't know that for sure.
Is it possible to do a poll now?
I don't know if I think I have to type that up in here. 1 second. I don't know if I can do a live.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that on here.
All right. Can we use the chat? Just wondering if the attendees will agree to have speed cushions on 155th as the device of choice. So could you ask if, just to say, ask the question and let them answer yes or no. And we'll count how many yeses and how many no's we have.
Actually, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and type the question in to all panelists now. So the question is speed cushions on, what was it? Southwest 155th and
155th Avenue.
I mean, the treatment will be speed cushions. But we'll have two plans. Later on, we'll talk about the plan. But are speed cushions okay to use on 155th? Mm-hmm. I just want to hear from the attendees if they agree with me or not.
Okay, 1 second.
And just note that, as Jabber mentioned, the placement, there'll be two options at the next meeting for the placement. Since a lot of residents want to put something between Falcon and Roundabout, we will present an option with that, if it's something in between.
Okay, I'm going ahead and send this question out to all the panelists now. Are speed cushions okay to use on Southwest 155th Avenue? Please type this yes or no in the chat. All right, Tony, if you want to go ahead and look at those and then start tallying them up.
All right, this looks like to be 17 panelists, or 17 participants outside of us. Now there's 14 attendees outside of the three of us. So looking at the 14 attendees, there's one no. And I'll give you maybe almost one more minute to see if there's any more feedback. So it looks like there is none. So it looks like majority, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 10 yeses and 1 no at this time. And they prefer speed cushion, the one with the pedal design, where those emergency vehicles can go around the vehicles, can go around the speed cushions itself. The emergency vehicles can climb will not be delayed by the speed cushions.
So it seems the super majority, they would like to have speed cushions on it. So
yes,
at the next meeting, that's what we will use on the plan. And like I said, we'll have a plan with how we spaced them at 350 feet. And another plan, we'll try to squeeze one more in between the traffic circle and Falcon. So we'll go with this plan. And I hope we will meet your expectations. And that's our goal. I keep saying this because traffic calming devices, they go in, and I haven't seen any that will come out. I mean, they go in, people like them, so you have to live with it in a way. So that's why I'm asking, I keep checking and asking, do you like it or not? So if you don't like anything, please speak up. Since now we're going on a fast track, you want it as quick as possible, no open house, so.
Okay, so I've got more questions here. Who are these ballots being mailed to?
So it's being mailed to everybody in the project area. If you receive a flyer to your house, that means you're in the project area. And then I'll share the screen briefly again to show you the map of everyone who have a vote. 1 second. So go back to the PowerPoint. Everyone in this area, in the shaded black area, will have a vote. And at the last meeting, I think there were several residents that asked to be included. And the next meeting we'll discuss that. We'll discuss whether to include the additional residents that you guys have emailed us and asking to be into the project area. That will be at the next meeting when we'll have a vote whether to include them or not. So this is the project area tentatively.
Okay, the next question, I think we've already answered. Someone said, so Jabber, are you saying it could take as long as next spring, a year away to get these installed? I heard that the soonest they would be able to be installed would be September of this year. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We will do our best to try to meet that time, but there is no guarantee with the weather.
Okay. And then I assume if we were mailed a notice, we will receive one once the next meeting date is finalized.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Once again, when is the next meeting time?
June 10, 6 p.m. virtually at this moment. The same meeting software.
Okay. And then we just have a comment. Thank you, Stacy, Jabra, and Tony. You're welcome. Could there also be a presentation with only 2 speed bumps? Do you need speed cushions?
Depending on the spacing, if you only put 2, the spacing may be too far separated. We can consider that option, but we would pick 350 feet. But if you go any more than that, it'd be really hard to make it effective. Mr. Kasho?
Correct.
Okay. So I have 2 questions here. One, actually, I'm not really sure what this one pertains to because I think it got kind of shuffled in these other ones. Something about, I guess this goes with the timeline question. I'm not sure. Maybe if you can retype your question about the timeline, maybe you already have the answer because I know we talked about that a little bit. And then the other question was, how many houses / votes will there actually, I mean, how many votes or houses are actually included here? How many votes will that actually be for this neighborhood?
Give me 1 second. I can give you a tally. So in the meantime, can we ask the other question and I'll get back to the tally for the house count? I can give you that number in a second.
Okay.
So looks like there's 41 residents that is in the project area at this moment. And assuming there's no renter, then there'll be 41 at this moment. If there's renter, as Jabbar mentioned in the last meeting, both the owner and the renter would get a ballot. So now there's potentially 41. And then not including the additional people who asked to be included, and that will be discussed at the next meeting. So there'll be potentially more than 41 if we decide to include them.
So it's 1 vote per household?
That's correct. And then if they're owner and a renter, then they both get, the owner and the renter would get a ballot. And then there's potentially more ballots if the residents approve to expand the project area to include those additional residents at the next meeting.
For the plan to pass, we need 28 returned yes cards. Based on the 41.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions that are sort of lingering out there, or some thoughts, or any other comments, suggestions, anything that anybody would like to discuss? There are a lot more residents than 41 that use Southwest 155th as a go-between from Teal to Weir.
Yes, there are, but the people who are most impacted by the traffic calming devices are the people who live on the street or close to it. You're impacted by the noise and the looks and so forth. People who use the street, I mean, they're probably, most of them are the violators. So the program is done in a way, the voting area was done in a way so it will account only for the people who are impacted the most by whatever we do on the street. That's why it's written this way.
Also, there's now a house at 10980 Morning Dove. So it's actually 42.
The 41 includes the property at Morning Dove. That's the new property that we included that in the 41. Okay. The city property, which will not have an input, I omitted from 41, but it still will be 28 that we'll need, even if we don't, that one vote will probably not make the difference. You will still need 28 to get approved, even if you take the city property out.
Okay. Someone said, thank you so much. You're an amazing team. Thank you. We're really happy to be here this evening, and we're happy to help folks, understand the process and also kind of walk them through some of the traffic calming treatments. So we appreciate your time as well. And thank you so much for being here. Do the humps have to have the white checker pattern on it? Is there anything else we can do that's more attractive?
No, that's what we use in the city, and we have to be consistent with the speed humps. Yeah, I know some on the 155th, they use the old style, just the lines. And since 1997, we've been using the checkerboard. Yeah, it's easy on the maintenance. The lines don't disappear, you know, they don't get wiped out. And it's visible at night for drivers. So that's important.
Any other questions, suggestions, thoughts from anybody? I would like to add also, thank you so much, Tony and Jabra. I've done a really great job. And I want to say thank you to everyone for attending this meeting this evening. And we'll wait just a few more minutes, see if there's any other questions that come in.
So thank you everyone for attending, and then stay safe out there and get your vaccines if you can. And then hopefully by summer, we can move past this.
Okay, we've got somebody that raised their hand, so I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. Paul, go ahead. Oh.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Jabra and Tony are real pros, and I appreciate them applying their skills to this. Yeah, when I live up the hill a little bit, so I'm not in the area, but you know, when I talk to my neighbors, people groan collectively and have a really negative feeling about, you know, some kind of traffic calming device, because it's very disruptive and, you know, kind of jerks you around when you go over a speed bump. That's the worst of it. You know, I know they're smarter now and somewhat better, but how do you measure, you know, Jabra mentions also frustration a lot. So we live in very frustrating times. So we're trying to reduce frustration and trying to get calmer. And right now it's a really calm stretch of road with really no houses bordering it, trees, very professionally graded curve. You know, hats off to the civil engineers that designed it. So from those of us that are very dependent on it, on that as an exit and entrance into the neighborhood, you know, by bike, by dog walking, and by car, it just seems like a negative to add, you know, some kind of obstruction to it. So how do you measure, if I have to turn this into a question, how do you measure the frustration factor on people?
The construction of the speed hump or speed cushion actually is very critical. The height of the speed cushion, we like to keep it at 3 inches. Also the profile of the speed cushion or speed hump, it has to match a parabolic curve. And what we do with the city is we have a template that we use, and we try to get it as close as possible to that 3-inch height. We could go 3.5 max, but the minute you start going over 3.5 and you feel the jot in the car when you go over it, that's when drivers get frustrated. And frustration actually creates phone calls to us. People start calling in, why did you do this? They're too bad, take them out. I'll give you an example. If you go on Davis Road between Murray Boulevard and 160th, those speed humps are little high, and we had to go back actually and shave some of the top off to make it little gentler than what it used to be. And I remember when they built the project, I was new at the city, and we'll just call after call for like a month. Every day we'll get something. Even the mailman complained about it. so that's how we try to keep it as close to 3 inches as possible to avoid these things. So when you go over it, yeah, it will slow you down, but you don't feel that big jot that it, you know.
Yeah, please consider, you know, that when you make the design, or maybe the neighbors will agree that.
Yeah, the funniest thing, sometimes you go to neighborhoods and they want them to be like 6 inch high. But it all depends, you know.
Thank you.
We've got another person that would like to speak. I'm going to go ahead and somebody had mentioned, somebody has joining late. Is it correct that nothing is proposed from the 155th to Teal, from 155th Teal traffic circle to Shoals Ferry? That is the stretch where I see the most need.
That is, oh, go ahead, Mr. Caution.
Yeah, that section of one Teal, actually, the posted speed limit on it is 35 miles per hour, and we cannot have traffic calming on it, you know, for 35 miles per hour. It doesn't qualify for the program. Only streets that have 30 miles per hour or less will qualify for traffic calming. Yeah, Teal Boulevard is a collector street and it's designed to carry high number of vehicles, and it's designed for a higher speed too.
Okay, I have a person that would like to speak. I'm going to go ahead and press that button. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I just submitted that question. I'm very disappointed to hear that the stretch from the traffic circle to Shoals Ferry was left out. Frankly, I think the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is completely ridiculous. I have personally witnessed T-bone accidents, for example, at 155th and Bob White. I think to have a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit is just absurd. That speed limit, with all the accidents I've seen, the close calls, really needs to be lowered at least to 30, if not 25. So I think you're really missing the boat here. I'm not even necessarily advocating speed bumps on that stretch, but I really am advocating lowering the speed limit. I'm just frankly extremely puzzled as to why there isn't any consideration of lowering the speed limit.
You know, in the past, we got requests to lower the speed limit, and we did speed studies, and the 85th percentile speed was around the posted speed limit. So it did not qualify even with ODOT, because we cannot, the city cannot on its own lower the speed limit on the street. We have to first measure the speeds, measure the 85th percentile speed, and then traffic commission, you know, will have a hearing on it. City council will approve whatever traffic commission recommendation is.
So Jabra, I hear all that. What I'm asking you to do is to think outside the box. I understand that you can't lower the speed limit on your own, but to be very clear, I'm asking you to go to ODOT and ask that speed limit be lowered. I understand you got to ask for it, but to just give up and say, I'm not going to even try, just makes no sense to me. And, you know, the legislature did pass a law that gives local jurisdictions more flexibility to lower speed limits. And I understand Portland was in that bill and not Beaverton, but I would respectfully recommend that Beaverton think about getting included in that criteria so you have more ability to deal with these issues.
Yeah, I didn't finish where I'm going to, and so let me finish. Like I said, in the past, we did submit, we did review it, and it did not have a chance because ODOT was adamant that any posted speed limit will be based on the 85th percentile speed. That was the rules at the time. Yeah, last July, even before that, after the new legislation came in, now there is more flexibility on reducing speed on collectors within urban areas. And there is a chance that you might be able to reduce it to 30. And to do this, I mean, this meeting is about the traffic calming, but I would like to have kind of documentation or an email from anybody requesting reducing the speed.
Yeah, and I'll be
can I
happy
finish,
to.
please? Can I finish?
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep hearing gaps, so I think you're done.
So if I get a request from anybody from in this meeting or outside this meeting requesting lowering the speed, we'll initiate a study on the street and we'll start the process. If Traffic Commission approves it and it goes to ODOT for approval, that will be great and we'll do it. But that's the process I need to go through to lower the speed limit on that part of Teal Boulevard. And I would like the request to be specific between where and where.
No, I'm happy to do that, and that's helpful. I guess part of the reason I'm a little confused is you were sent an email last year, and I thought that somebody was looking at this. I'm more than happy to resend that email to you from last year. So yeah, I'll be happy to do that. I guess on a final note, and thank you for taking my question. I do appreciate it. Here's my concern. You know, as a traffic engineer, we start putting up speed bumps and traffic calming north of the traffic circle. People are going to get impatient, and by the time they get south of the traffic circle, they're going to speed up to make up the time they lost on the speed bumps to the north. So I really think it just needs to be a comprehensive solution, and I would respectfully request that the traffic calming within the project limits that you've proposed be delayed until there's an ODOT decision, and then we can look at more comprehensively dealing with everything up to Shoals Ferry. So I appreciate you taking my question.
But this is not for sure that, you know, traffic calming will increase the speeds on Teal, you know. We can't say yes or no without really measuring the speeds and confirming this. It could be true, it could be not. So the neighborhood is in a hurry to implement the project, and we will continue that route. Later on, if we reduce the speed to 30 and still, you know, it meets the criteria to have traffic calming on the street, we will do this and we'll continue the project later on as a separate project.
Okay,
at this time, it doesn't qualify.
Thank you, Jabra. I have a few questions here in the Q&A that I'd like to go over here. Will the speed cushions be similar to the ones on Sorrento?
Yes.
Okay, that was easy. We walk our dogs multiple times a day down 155th and have on every time. And every time we feel we are at risk of people enjoying the nice grade of stretch as they speed through the area. So more of a comment just to kind of, you know, let us know that. I'm sorry, but enjoying the nice, people are driving in excess of 50 miles an hour down that stretch, he's saying. And also, he also says, I agree that 35 miles from traffic circle to Shoals Ferry is excessive. This remains a neighborhood and kids walk from side streets to the pool on a stretch of road with a speed limit that's too fast for the neighborhood. So, okay, so you've answered some of those questions related to speed and speeding in the neighborhood, and also the miles per hour along some of those stretches here. Okay, so let's get back to 155th by Cormorant Drive. We wholeheartedly support speed bumps and anything to make the area not a nice drive-through for the speeders. We are tired of putting our lives and that of our dogs in the hand of those that speed excessively.
Understood.
Okay. Any other comments, suggestions, questions before we wrap this up here? Okay, we'll just wait just about one more minute in case anyone has any final questions or comments. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending the Southwest 155th Avenue traffic calming meeting, the second meeting of the series. And it sounds like the plan is for the next meeting to be June 10th.
Around the end of the month, around the last week of May, you will receive a flyer notifying you of the official date.
Okay. I think we are ready to go ahead and close the meeting. So, looks like, we have one more question. We would still like to be included in the voting. We are one house away, and that is from Brian. Brian, can you go ahead and type your address in here if you don't mind? I'll make sure that Tony has you, unless you're familiar with his name.
Actually, Stacy, I'll put my email in the chat, and he can send me a request because we have to document the request, so we have something to like on record. So I'll put my email in the chat box for everyone at this moment.
Perfect.
So just send me a request, and I will document that you asked to be included. And at the next meeting, we'll have a vote whether to include you. Like the residents will have a voice, and they will vote to whether to expand the project area to incorporate you. Okay, I put my email in the chat, so you should be able to see it at this time.
Wonderful. Okay, will do. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to go ahead and stop recording the meeting. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending the meeting tonight, and we will see you soon. Jabra, any final words?
Just I want to thank everybody who attended this meeting, and hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting, and hopefully we'll agree on a plan to move forward. And have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending, and then look forward to seeing you at the next meeting, and then we'll go from there.